It is 2025, and we at Q4 Impact are excited to bring you content the month of January on the theme of purpose. You will not want to miss a single one. Thanks for tuning in. Stay till the end because I have a very special announcement that you will not want to miss.
Because as much fun as my career was at times, it's, obviously a combination of fun and not so much fun. The most rewarding experiences, and I think about this a lot, I say, what are the highlight parts of my life? They're kingdom things.
Yeah.
They're making a difference in someone's life. They're being in prayer and sensing the presence of God. They're being in His Word and seeing something I maybe never saw before.
So I'm going to jump in and interrupt a minute because I love your passion and how you're just forging ahead with what or how you defined creating value. But I think it's important to note, we've talked about all of the hours that were spent in careers or in the home with our families, and suddenly, that's gone, and you've quickly talked about doing other things. And I think our tendency so often is we can shift to doing over being. And God has first called us to know who we are in Him. And this is a big part of how we're going to define value. And that's where you were jumping ahead a little bit. You've defined it for yourself. But let's talk a little bit more about the importance of defining value before we can even begin creating it.
I think that's kind of where I was going with this is, what are you going to place in your life? What are you going to value? Let's face it, it's how we spend our time, what our treasures are in our life, are going to dictate and determine the priorities and the things that we're investing in. And so, when I think of creating value, I have choices. We all have choices. I could decide, you know what? I'm going to try to be the best 70-year-old golfer in the United States. So I'm going to go out every day and I'm going to get a coach and I'm going to play and I'm going to putt and I'm going to chip and I'm going to do all these things. So someone could decide that. That's an option. And I have come to recognize and understand that what the option I want to choose is I want my life to be shaped by God's Word. That's what I've decided. Yesterday, being at a board meeting at Joni and Friends, and Joni Earekson-Tada has just come out of the hospital, been there for 3 weeks, very life-threatening situation, and still not out of the woods. And she was not able to attend the board meeting, but she came on via Zoom for about 10 minutes. And listening to her still have joy, still want to be everything Jesus wants her to be, even though she just went through just 3 weeks of horrific sickness and fear of like this, maybe this is it and I'm gonna die. And yet, just beaming with love for Jesus. And I'm sitting there just taking it all in, and tears are coming down my eyes as I'm listening to her and recognizing she's doing what Jesus is wanting all of us to do. Whether you're 10 years old, 50 years old, or 100 years old, whether you're out running a marathon or biking across the country, or in your bed in your retirement home, not able to walk.
And I love that you did bring in that example and that last part, especially because going back to those that may not be able to produce or to do something that is visible, we need to counter that part inside of us that says it has to be externally visible, because there is so much value in those prayer ministries. And I know Joni a little bit as well. And though you got a snapshot of her in those 10 minutes yesterday, I know that in these last few weeks, from a hospital room where perhaps no one was watching in the middle of the night, she was still creating value by the choice of her attitude and the decision to choose to pray. And as Hebrews says, we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses. And I don't believe that means just here on earth. Like, these things are being evident in the throne room of heaven. And that is where our ultimate reward is. And that goes back to what you're saying, creating things of eternal value.
She's lying in the hospital room, and nurses are coming in and out as they do in a hospital. And she said this yesterday. I'd never heard anyone say this like this before. She said, I shared with the nurses, I said, you're a lot like Jesus. And because he came to serve and not to be served, and that's what you're doing. And I just want to thank you. And, I'm imagining a nurse, hearing that from a quadriplegic lying in bed, as, imagining and knowing the impact that has. So no matter what circumstance we're in, no matter how hard our life is, no matter how much heartache we have, no matter how many disappointments we're in the middle of, no matter what loss we're being affected by, it's not time to give up. It's not time to complain. It's time to say there's a sense of urgency. We're in the fourth quarter. This is our last chance on earth, these years, to make a dent, make a mark, impact a person's life.
Thanks so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and if you want to listen again or check out other great content, please check out the links in the captions below. This month, the special offer I mentioned before is a copy of this amazing book on purpose that a ministry partner and dear friend has written. Marcus Costantino will speak to you about what is purpose that God has given and how to find it. For the first 100 people to go to the Q4 Impact store on our website and enter code word purpose, it will be our privilege to send you a free copy of this book. We are so committed to you finding and living out your God-given purpose, and we do hope to hear from you. See you next week.